Marilyn Monroe was found dead in bed under circumstances that were in tragic contrast to her glamorous career as a comic talent.
In the final years of Frank Sinatra's life, he often drifted into memories of the women who once held his heart. But one name always stood out: Marilyn Monroe. Her tragic and mysterious death haunted him for years. According to Tony Oppedisano, Sinatra's close friend and former road manager, Frank was convinced Marilyn didn't die by accident. He truly believed she was murdered, and that belief stuck with him. He never really got over it. Despite rumors swirling for decades, Oppedisano insists their bond wasn't romantic. They weren't lovers, he claims, even though they shared a deep connection. Sinatra was completely taken by Monroe. He thought she was stunning, hilarious, and full of charm. But he also saw the other side of her: the pain, the fragility, the vulnerability. Unlike others, he couldn't just use her and walk away. He had too much respect for her. He was a real gentleman. And even without romance, Monroe trusted Sinatra with her darkest, most personal secrets. She told everything to Old Blue Eyes. Marilyn opened up to Frank about jaw-dropping secrets, starting with her infamous affairs with both John F. Kennedy and Robert F. Kennedy. She spilled the scandalous details, holding nothing back. But what hurt her most was how suddenly they both vanished from her life. Marilyn told Frank she couldn't understand why they completely cut her off the moment the affairs ended. "Why did they shut me out just because I wasn't sleeping with them anymore?" she confided. Welcome to X Gossip, your front row seat to the wild world of celebrity scandals, secrets, and everything they don't want you to know. If you love juicy drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a headline. Just 1 week before her shocking death, Marilyn stayed at the exclusive Cal Neva Lodge near Lake Tahoe, a glamorous getaway partly owned by Sinatra himself at the time. But the public had no clue what was really going on behind the scenes. Marilyn wasn't just relaxing. She was secretly meeting up with her ex-husband, baseball icon Joe DiMaggio. He happened to be staying nearby, and the two were reconnecting in private. She even had plans to announce their rekindled romance in a press release the following week, but that never happened. The media had no idea what Marilyn's big announcement was really about. Many assumed she was finally ready to spill the scandalous truth about her affairs with JFK and RFK. But according to Tony Oppedisano's memoir, Sinatra and Me in the Wee Small Hours, that was never the case. Marilyn still had real feelings for John. She would have never exposed him like that. And Frank knew it. He truly believed that if she had never planned that press conference, she might have lived much longer, maybe even survived. Just days after Marilyn's shocking death, Sinatra's lawyer Mickey Rudin, who also worked closely with Monroe, delivered the devastating news: she's been killed. That's what Frank was told, and whispers quickly spread through Hollywood and beyond. Some even suggested the mafia might have had a hand in her death, particularly men tied to notorious mob boss Sam Giancana. Shockingly, a few of them even claimed they played a role. In Oppedisano's book, he reveals that Frank had multiple close sources who told him the same horrifying story. Marilyn was murdered using a Nembutal suppository. And according to what Sinatra heard, the people responsible may have been Robert Kennedy or the mafia. The truth still sends chills. More than 50 years later, the real story behind Marilyn Monroe's death is still a mystery. The conspiracy theories haven't stopped swirling, and even Tony Oppedisano admits he's never been able to silence them for good. But one thing he can say with absolute certainty: Frank Sinatra never stopped being haunted by her death. It followed him all the way to his final days. Marilyn wasn't just another Hollywood connection, she was one of Frank's closest friends. When the Rat Pack gathered at Sinatra's Palm Springs home, especially Sammy Davis Jr. and Dean Martin, they'd often sit up late into the night reminiscing about Marilyn. Those deep, emotional conversations stayed private for decades. Until now. Russo believes Monroe was caught in a dangerous game played by the mafia. He suggests the mob targeted her as part of a twisted plan to get to President John F. Kennedy. According to a jaw-dropping report from the Daily Mail, the mob's goal was to secretly record Marilyn in a threesome with both JFK and Robert F. Kennedy. That tape, they believed, could be used to blackmail the president into invading Cuba and handing control of Cuban casinos back to the mob. But when JFK didn't show up at the resort as planned, The mafia had to quickly change course. And what came next? Chilling. Russo claims that Marilyn found out about the mob's twisted blackmail plot, and when she did, she was furious. He says she threatened to go public and expose everything to the media. That's when things took a dark turn. According to Russo, once Robert F. Kennedy caught wind of her plan, he allegedly arranged to have her silenced for good. Russo is adamant. He believes Bobby was the only one who would have had Monroe killed. In his words, the mob loved her too much. She had a wild reputation and was known for partying hard. Russo claims all they would have needed to do was slip her a few pills, maybe give her a couple of strong drinks, and she'd be in bed with just about anyone. There was no reason for them to hurt her. But the story takes an even more disturbing twist. In his book, Russo describes a man known only as the Doctor, a chilling figure who was both a licensed physician and a feared mob hitman. According to Russo, this man ended Marilyn's life by injecting air into a vein near her pubic area, causing a deadly embolism. It was a horrifyingly precise way to kill someone, and it fooled the coroner, who ruled it a simple overdose. If you're still with us, don't go anywhere. What's coming next will leave you speechless. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Facts Verse for even more shocking truths. Did Marilyn Monroe really take her own life? That's what the official story claims, that she was overwhelmed by depression and crumbling under the pressure in the months leading up to her death. But is that truly what happened? Sure, Marilyn was struggling emotionally, but was it enough to push her to such a tragic end? There's no denying that fame took a heavy toll on her. Behind the glamour, Marilyn was barely holding it together. She leaned heavily on a mix of psychiatric meds and recreational drugs just to cope with the chaos of being a global icon. The constant stress wore her down, and her personal life was just as chaotic. Not long before her death, she was actually fired from her latest movie project with 20th Century Fox due to her repeated lateness. And then there were the men. So many high-profile romances. From Joe DiMaggio to famed playwright Arthur Miller, her love life was filled with heartbreak and emotional baggage. Then came that fateful night, August 4th, 1962. Marilyn reached out by phone to Peter Lawford, the British actor who also happened to be married to JFK's sister Pat. What exactly was said during that call remains one of the biggest question marks in Hollywood history. Marilyn's final phone call was chilling. Her voice was slurred and shaky. Clearly something was wrong. She ended the conversation with Peter Lawford in a haunting way, telling him to say goodbye to Pat for me. Then she added that he should also say goodbye to the president and to himself, calling him a nice guy. It sounded like a farewell, one that would prove to be final. Just a few hours later, Marilyn Monroe was found dead in her Los Angeles mansion. Around 3:30 a.m., her housekeeper, Eunice Murray, noticed the light was still on in Marilyn's bedroom. Feeling uneasy, she called two people immediately: Marilyn's psychologist, Dr. Ralph Greenson, and her personal physician, Dr. Hyman Engelberg. Greenson arrived first and discovered Monroe's lifeless body. Engelberg arrived shortly after and officially pronounced her dead. The coroner later determined that her cause of death was acute barbiturate poisoning, an overdose. The report concluded it was likely suicide, but even with that ruling, cracks in the story began to surface. There were inconsistencies, missing details, and strange timelines that didn't quite add up. Could foul play have been involved? So many questions still linger, and the mystery only deepens from here. Over time, several key witnesses connected to Marilyn Monroe's death began walking back their original statements. Some even claimed they were pressured into helping cover up what really happened. A few of them hinted that Marilyn was murdered to protect none other than President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert. Back then, it was Hollywood's worst-kept secret. People either knew or strongly suspected that Monroe and JFK had an affair. And now it's confirmed. They were both overnight guests at Bing Crosby's private seaside home in Palm Springs. That wasn't their only meeting either. They reportedly saw each other multiple times before that. But it gets even messier. It appears that Marilyn's relationship with Robert Kennedy wasn't just a brief fling, it was even longer and more involved than her connection with JFK. Some believe Bobby was trying to redirect Marilyn's attention, keeping her away from his brother to prevent a full-blown scandal that could have destroyed both of them. So what do you think? Were the Kennedys secretly behind Marilyn's mysterious death? Or was it the mafia, pulling the strings to protect their gambling empire? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear from you.